So this is our final discussion session. So hello, goodbye. So I guess my hope was that we would spend more of today's sessions than in the past going over each other's videos, seeing as now we have a much larger body of work and we can sort of look back and see how things have progressed. So that's how I'd like to spend maybe the first 2/3 of the discussion is watching each other's videos and talking about them. And then the last third is just sort of wrapping the class up, talking about final assignments. I mentioned last week that your last video assignment isn't actually going to be to make a video about Will Ratcliffe's talk, but instead to sort of make a retrospective video about the class. So yeah, I want to sort of conclude things, but we can start by watching each other's videos. So does anybody want to volunteer? Is there a video that you would like to hear comments on?
I mean, I guess I'll start it. I was just saying to Maximus, I was saying that I was emailing John about like how he made his videos, because a lot of my videos, I'm not as savvy with like video editing or video making in general, like using screen share and like being able to draw. Like I like Nicole's videos, how she she made that little apparatus where she can film over the top, and like speed up her play. I like that a lot. And then also I think John told me, Max, that you use After Effects for some of your videos. Is that true?
Yeah, I use After Effects quite regularly.
Okay. All right. So I feel like I should try to start using something like that. I actually bought After Effects because I've been having so many problems with my computer with trying to make that intro that I was doing. It like crashed my computer, deleted 2 of my videos, so I had to start those over. Still working on those. And then now I have After Effects. So I think I have an idea of it. I have a friend from home that is pretty good with After Effects, and he's helping me out. I'm trying to make an intro. It might just end up being like my last video. I throw it in there, but I mean, my most recent video was just me like talking as usual, and I kind of wanted to like change it up and like, because I feel like that's the whole point, is to like maybe evolve your ability to make videos. Because if I ever make videos in the future for like my guitar or the piano, I want to be able to like edit better, maybe add some visual effects. Mine's definitely worth critiquing, because I don't think it's my best work, but I can definitely improve.
Cool. Well, let's give your most recent video a watch.
Okay.
But before we do that, I just want to, I guess, comment more generally in that I've actually quite appreciated your talking into the camera style. I think that one of the things that makes YouTube unique is how much really good simple stuff is on there. Like there is this kind of paradigm of you don't necessarily need fancy gear or fancy anything, but there you can be compelling just literally standing and talking into a camera. And it requires a certain amount of charisma and performance skill. But I've quite appreciated the stuff that you've been making, and I think that direction itself can, there's improvement that can be made there, but there's definitely something to be said for just like really owning the frame that you're inside of, and using your own body to be engaging. Yeah, so how about I will pull up a link to David's most recent video and we can give it a watch and then come back here in 4 minutes and chat about it. Okay.
What does it mean to be?
All right, so there is that.
And then, of course, if you have any questions, just send me an email.
Okay, thank you.
So, Kenise, while you joined, we were watching David's video. So here, I'll put a link in the chat bar for you again. Maybe you can give it a watch and then return back once you've gotten through it. Cool. Yeah. So, does anyone wanna jump in?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So, I mean, I already left some comments on there that I can reiterate, but you know, the eye contact and the natural delivery are really strong. And like I said, that's something that I clearly struggle with. So, you know, and I could tell you're kind of like, you have a script, but you're kind of improvising a little bit too. And there's a nice balance with that. But those are just really strong. What else? And yeah, I mean, I think a 3-minute video would be stronger. I don't know if it was just my attention span or just around 3 minutes. You kind of lost me, but I did like the highway analogy, and you know, you ended the video pretty strong. I was wondering if you had a strategy of like where you were filming at, because it was cool to see you leave the house, but then you kind of came back to the house, and I was kind of like, well, what was that about? So, you know, thinking about using that vlog style or that amount of movement to like help tell this story rather than just having, you know, that movement by itself. One thing that I was thinking about too is there was a recent video I think Maximus shared about video transitions, and the author was using the vlog style. So he had a lot of cool transitions, like the spin transition or like the zoom in, like, and you could have easily used some of those. Also just using a little music or text titles, that would help a lot.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess elaborating on the point where I walked outside, I definitely was thinking the same thing that you're kind of referring to, like trying to maybe incorporate the things around me to tell a story a little bit more. And then I guess being honest, towards the end, I kind of like I had already made the connection with like the being outside, being in a city, commerce, all the interconnecting parts. And then once I got back inside, I was like, well, I'm kind of going to make the same analogy with like human blood vessels. So I tried to maybe like have a starting point with telling a story. But yeah, no, I'm glad you picked up then, and I appreciate your comments.
Yeah, I'll reiterate some of those things. That like the script you were using was quite good, but I think probably the reason why it felt like it could be shorter is that the words that you were using weren't as like finely structured as they could have been. Like they're definitely, if you were to go back and look at what you said, it would probably be possible to rearrange some of the pieces so that some of the redundancy was removed and that the arc of your narrative was a little bit clearer. And that point that Max made in the comments of like, yeah, what we really wanted was for you to go conclude with a shot of a highway. That would have, you know, there's that feeling of going somewhere is really powerful. Like, you know, Casey Neistat uses that almost exclusively. You know, you can use movement to give your story a sense of urgency. And then the next step would be to tie that movement into the story directly. Yeah. So, I mean, so like there were a couple of things, you know, like in the beginning, you started talking about a definition of organism because we had just had an entire lecture of it, but you didn't actually take the time to frame it as like, okay, here's this definition that I'm going to be riffing off of. So there's some certain like narrative structure things of framing things of like taking the time to go from point A to B to C to D. Which you did for the most part. You did like maybe 80% of it, but there were a few loose pieces that could have been woven together a little bit more tightly.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think that redundancy was something that I noticed after I had posted it and watched it a few times, that like I had said similar things, and I'd kind of like, I try to like write a script and then make it so that I can say it naturally, so that it doesn't seem like it's rehearsed. Like I like more so like it's a natural thing that I know, like, because knowing it and being able to teach it, I feel like you have to actually say it with some conviction.
Yeah, you're really great with that. Like your tone on camera, like your camera presence. You know, like it really feels like you're talking to me, right? And that's what we're going for, right? It's like, yeah, there's all these screens in between you and I, but ultimately we're two humans talking. And I think you got that. You conveyed that feeling really, really effectively.
Thank you.
I think that something that also maybe could have contributed to your video being longer than like 3-ish minutes was that when you're vlogging and you're kind of walking around, it's really hard to make sharper jump cuts where you edit out like each breath you take or like each little bit that you could cut out. It's much harder to, because that movement would be jumpy. So I think that with your videos, it's a choice of whether you want to be whether you want to have like a moving background, which is a lot more engaging than just like talking at a camera and your background is static, or like making your video super sharp and like super clean. But I think that the vlog type of video really, really works. So I think that it's a compromise that you made like well. I guess the only thing that I could suggest is if you see that you take a lot of breaths or that your video is a little more expanded than you could make it, maybe do a couple of takes and see where you can make, like where you could like maybe pause between breaths or try to say like a little more before you take that breath and then pause it and then start it again. So I think that might help with like the jump cuts.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I get into a habit of kind of like trying to spit everything out in one breath. So it's nice to have someone else notice that. So thank you.
Yeah, I think that's really astute. And you're right, Nicole, that some of it is a hardware thing. You know, like I got this camera here on the gimbal that makes doing these walking and talking shots way, way smoother. But you know, it's a $700 device. And if you don't have that, there are other ways that you can compensate that don't require fancy hardware that Nicole was getting at. And one of them is just like, yeah, it is tricky. If you have a lot of motion, you don't want the cuts to feel jerky. But I think you'd be surprised at how much we're actually sort of assimilated to jerky cuts nowadays. And like a lot of things, just paying attention to your cuts and silence around them. And like, I mean, Nicole, you've done this almost to the far other extreme of like, sometimes you cut off a little too much of your speech than you should. But in your video, David, there were a number of, especially like, it's okay to leave a little bit of space at the end of a shot. Like you finish your sentence, you want to pause a little bit for emphasis. But what's really not okay is to have any dead space at the beginning of a shot. Like if you have a jump cut and then there's no audio for, you know, a third of a second, that's what's jarring. And so there are a number of places that you could have just cut out the very beginning of the shot and it would have felt a little more smoother.
That's good to know, because I've actually never edited, like I've never cut from the beginning of a clip. I've always just cut from the end to add on if I've had like a button click or if I've like, you know, paused for too long, because I usually pause to make sure that before I stop, like there's not too much like hardware, you know, making noise when I turn the camera off or on. But yeah, that's actually very valuable. Thank you.
There's also this video that I saw a while back. A lot of my friends from like a few years ago, I had this friend group and they were all like filmographers and cinematographers. And there was this video that they found on YouTube where it was um, like tricks to fool people into thinking that you have like a really high-tech camera. I'll try to find it again, but there were a couple of things on like moving transitions where like to make it less jerky and to make it a little more stable. I can try to find that video again and just send it on the thread that Maximus has with the videos to watch.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
I think that might be helpful.
Also, one quick thing about After Effects. So I basically taught myself how to use After Effects over a few days, mostly just one weekend, making that religious naturalism video that I made. And it is a lot more difficult than Premiere, and it's very useful for like making, like I think what you were talking about, like a quick short animation. But you know, it's tough. I'll tell you that it's not an easy learning curve. So I think that learning After Effects would be great, but you know, you can do a lot with Premiere that might, you know, might do what you want After Effects to do. I'm not really sure, but I found After Effects to be a lot more difficult than Premiere in general. So
Yeah, it definitely is. But I mean, the thing that I do most frequently in After Effects is sort of a very similar to what Max you've been doing in your recent videos of just using titling to emphasize your point. You know, so that that was what I started doing in the beginning. You know, all of those syllabus videos, I was, you know, just adding words here or there. And I do that not because it's necessarily like the best or the prettiest or anything like that, but that I've found that it's a very efficient way of emphasizing the important parts of what you're saying. And you don't need to use After Effects for that. You can just do that with the title features in Premiere, just adding words here or there. Yeah. Cool. Well, David, do you have any final questions, or should we move on to another video?
I guess I'll just say I appreciate all the feedback, and it was definitely something that I like, because it's kind of hard to pick a direction to go in, I guess, without critique. And like, it definitely helps that the comments that you guys left on the video, the 3 that were already on there, like were thorough enough to where I had kind of already had an idea, like, all right, this is what I can like change in my next video, because like it's almost an infinite amount of changes that I could make. And I'm not sure if it would be like the recommended direction. So now knowing that, you know, clipping the beginning of a video, or maybe being more accurate with my like cuts, like my jump cuts, like right in the beginning of them, or if I'm telling a story going somewhere, I should take it all the way through and then removing the redundancy. So just thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I would stick with the direction that you've been moving in. I think that the stuff you've been making is really like your personal strengths really shine through in it. And like there's a lot of polish that can happen, but there's definitely you have something to work with there. So I would keep working with it.
Good.
Cool. Well, Heather, would you be up for having us watch your most recent video?
Can we watch my e-waste video instead?
Sure. Yeah.
Then yeah.
I will pull up the e-waste video.
One of Dr. Mazen's papers touched on
All right, link is here. Check back in 2.5 minutes. Are we all back? Does anyone have initial comments?
I have none.
Cool.
It's like I noticed it because while I was editing my last video, it was like on my camera, and it's trying to follow like your text when you're doing a voiceover. So I noticed that I had to speed my text, like make it a bit faster, and I lost like it and didn't make it any better, or like when I slowed down my text, it didn't really make it any better. So I just have like one suggestion, but it's a bit hard to do so. Try to like maybe have like your text appear first and then like follow it through with your voiceover, or I'm not sure what else to do because I used Keynote when I was doing this, and it was a bit hard for me to follow my text when you're using words when you're doing a voiceover.
Yeah, that timing stuff is tricky.
Yeah.
So I would never recommend changing the speed of your voice because that is immediately obvious. You can change it's surprising to hear you say that you were doing it with Keynote. Were you doing it with Keynote and then screen capturing? You're muted.
There's like a YouTube video where you're able to do it with Keynote, and then you export it into like a movie file, and then put it into like the editing video editor that you're using.
That sounds cumbersome. Heather, that's not how you were doing it, was it?
No, I was doing it separate. Like I was talking over my like that presentation or whatever, and that's why I would take my image and like I'd break it apart, and then I'd actually try to lengthen it or shorten it to match my vocals, or like I would voice over it and record it or whatever, but then there's some flaws and stuff, so I would try to edit it that way essentially instead of speeding up or slowing down my voice, I lengthened the images or shortened the images.
Yeah, that's the way that I would recommend doing it. And like, yeah, it is tedious to get the timing right. But
yeah,
but you've improved. Like, you've been doing it for many videos now, and your timing has definitely gotten better. So I guess one thing that I should have said weeks ago, but when I'm doing timing stuff like that, I will often make the audio form really large. Like visually, you can expand it in Premiere, and when you expand the audio form, you can actually see like where you're breathing and where you're pausing and things, and you can be actually extremely precise if you want to be.
Yeah, I tried that, or I saw that you did that in one of the YouTube videos you posted, but for some reason, like the computer I'm using, it doesn't let me get it very big. So like it warns me when I open Premiere, like, hey, you need to change your resolution or whatever. And I've tried every resolution imaginable, I feel like. Some of the I haven't gotten a lot of the pauses. So what I did what I've done since I've realized that's been an issue is I've kind of like lengthened my pauses. So when I'm editing it, I can clearly see that paused.
Yeah, I'm glad that you discovered that. That's a really critical thing. In terms of like, it took me a very long time to learn how to record things on a camera so that they would be easier to edit later on. And a big piece of that is making your pauses very deliberate. Like don't make short pauses, and like when you stop, really stop. Then when you start again, you start with a full sentence like that. That helps with the editing tremendously. So, yeah, I really liked your video. I think that the biggest strength of it was again that you had this underlying narrative. I mean, the structure of it was really clear. It was like, here's this problem, here's what it does, here's how we should respond. That 3-part, like, it's a sort of standard thing, but it's standard for a reason. You know, that those kinds of arguments work. So that was good.
Yeah, that's something like making a video. It's hard to make the point, what you're trying to say, and what you're us in a video. For me at least, like, it's not like a presentation where I guess it is, but I don't want to be on screen, so it's a little different.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you've done a quite good job actually making these videos feel like a presentation. You know, it's like they're mini lectures. You know, today I'm going to tell you about this. Here's the thing. Now we're done. You know, like you've been really good at like having a very, very well defined focus.
I think I appreciate how in this video and in some of your other videos you've been able to kind of diverge and sort of like find some really like specific part of one of the lectures that that we see, and you're able to kind of like just really dive into that. And it seems like you do a lot of research on top of, like, you know, what we're already hearing and studying about. You kind of like dig deep into like one thing, and I think that probably takes a lot of work, doing all that research. I was curious, how do you do the text treatments where it like drops in and some of those different things? Like, to me, it didn't look like you made some of that stuff on Premiere. Like, it looked like some different application. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I just used PowerPoint and videoed my screen or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so you were doing something similar to what Kenise was doing.
Yeah, Dave pointed out at the beginning, or one of our first lectures, that he uses Fast Track or Fast and then I used that. So
Cool. Yeah, I mean that's not something that I ever thought of. I've always relied exclusively on the animation tools that Adobe provides, which I think ultimately is probably, like, you can get more done with Adobe, but like, good on you for coming up with a quick solution that allows you to you know, get something out.
Yeah, I'm way more than I am with Adobe and Premiere. So I was like, how do I, because I'm not going to lie, like, when we first had to do our videos and I started working on a video, I was like, holy crap, this is way over my head. Like, I thought this was going to be some terrible. And I had to come up with the solution of like, well, what can I do? And then David said he used that screenshotting thing. I was like, okay, well, that's perfect. Like, that's something I could incorporate into a video.
Cool. Well, should we do one more, perhaps? Does anybody else want to have us watch and comment on your videos?
Yeah, sure. If you guys don't mind.
Yeah.
I like, recently uploaded my last video on like what makes an organism an organism.
Yeah, I would love to look at that one. I really liked the way you incorporated everyone's voices. That was really sweet. So yeah, let's take a look at that one.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit more difficult because usually on the weekends I go to my sister's summer house in the Poconos, and I left like my whiteboard and my whole entire setup at home. So I had to like, and I didn't even have markers there, so I had to ask like my mom's friend's niece to bring me her like 4-year-old's markers, and it was just really complicated, and I was worried that the video wouldn't come out as well as the rest of them did. So any criticism would be appreciated.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
Characteristics. What does it take to be an author?
Okay, there's the link. Are we back? Cool. Who wants to start?
I'll start if no one else wants to. I think it was really cool to watch, and that was the reason why I had like the desire to maybe try something different with my video editing, because that kind of thing, like the whole, it's not even like I could pick out one part that was good. It was like the entire composition of it was very enthralling. Like not only was like your writing is good, your illustration is pretty good, and the colors you use, like everything, like down to the smallest details. I feel like you really like put an effort in orchestrating all of it together. And then the very beginning, like immediately, just because I'm in the class, like the fact that you used Max's and then John's and Maximus's like and like your like audio, that was so cool. I just like, I don't personally, because I just made it because I don't know how to do it like that well, but I thought that was very engaging. And then the only comment I would make about a criticism would just be like the audio changes, like the level of the audio changes, and that could have something more to do with your hardware. But I personally thought that like the composition, the overall, it was quick. Like it was only like a 3.5 minute thing, or like just around 3 minutes. And it had like, just the illustrations were very engaging, and you did it like you were teaching a class. So.
Thank you. Just as like a side note, I know that when I was writing the criterion for a paradigm organism, I forgot to write indivisibility. And I like tried to put like the annotation box over it, but for some reason, I guess it didn't upload all the way, because when I just rewatched it, like the annotation box didn't come up. But I know that that's an error I made.
I actually, I did notice that. I didn't mind it though.
Oh, okay.
Like I thought that was actually like, because it was a short word, like it actually, it was smooth enough. Yeah, the issue that I had with that list is more big picture of like, and I guess this is sort of a similar criticism that I gave to David earlier. Is like the framing that Joan gave of her talk is like, one, we don't really know what an organism is. Two, here's this definition that some biologists have been using in the past. Three, here's why it doesn't work. Four, here's the new definition, right? And like she presented each of those parts in order, which really gave us those ideas, right? And Nicole, you presented the same information that she presented, but you didn't quite frame it in that way. And so like there was the first time you mentioned the old definition of organism, you like it wasn't clear that like the way that you presented it in the beginning, it sounded very official. You know, like you opened with this question of like, oh, what is an organism? That's what Joan asks. Then here are the answers the students give, and then the next thing is, all right, here are these definitions, right? And the way that you framed it makes it sound like that, like we're supposed to think that that's correct, which like it is correct, but like you didn't do this whole like wait but actually thing strong enough, so there wasn't this like point counterpoint feeling. Does that make sense? But on a technical note, like everything that like the composition of it, just, you know, what David was saying, like I'm everything you make, I'm so impressed at just like the level of care and attention to detail. And I really liked the music. Like I thought that really, you know, that you know, it was repetitive and varied enough. Yeah, it was really, really great to watch. And I really appreciated hearing all our voices in the beginning. Like that's something that I definitely want other people seeing about this class, of like, hey, you know, we're doing this thing, but like we're weaving all of these, like that's great. I really, really like that.
I also want to put in a soundbite of like Mel, but it kind of went into discussion. I think someone's having feedback.
Yeah, let me try to fix that, and then you can say what you said again.
Okay. So I also tried to put in like a soundbite of like Mel's answer where she talked about like open system, because I thought that was really interesting, but it kind of went into like a side like tangent discussion that lasted about 5 minutes. So I felt that if I just put in like her answer to that specific question, it would be a little out of context. So that was just a little
Yeah, I mean, so there's you did a really great job of getting pithy sound bites from people, and I actually think that you could have cut a lot of what I said too. There are ways of, I do it quite frequently in the videos that I've been making. There are ways of cutting audio. Like when you have to cut audio and video, it looks really, really choppy. But if you're just working with an audio feed, you can actually manipulate people's voices quite a lot. Like you can make people say things that they didn't say. Or like one thing that I often find myself doing is like speakers will say something that I wanted them to say, but like it was part of a prepositional phrase and I wanted it to be like just the whole sentence. And so I'll like move things around so it sounds like a full sentence even when it isn't. Yeah, so that's for the future. You can get away with a lot when you're just working with an audio feed.
Nicole, a couple aesthetic qualities that I noticed that were different from your previous ones is the lighting seemed better in this one. And so the colors were more vibrant and it just looked like a better quality video. And I don't know if that was just because of the lighting. Yeah, clearly the music was different. Previously, I think the music had like a kind of cute feel, and it was like a really lighthearted feel. But this just felt more like I said in the comments, like more mature and like more confident or something. Also just felt more contemporary. Who was that, by the way, the music?
So the song is called Not For Nothing, I think, and it's by Otis McDonald. I can link the download for it, like somewhere in the chat or something.
Yeah, it was a really good piece of music, and like getting good music for videos is tricky because like I think a lot of the stuff, a lot of the stuff that you did early on, I've actually seen it. I mean, that's like what you typed in like free music or something, and
yeah, it was basically like good background music for YouTube videos, and
yeah.
there's a list of 10, and I was like, okay, like this works. This isn't too complicated of a beat. Like it's not distracting, and I just used it.
Yeah, a lot of those things I've seen in dozens of other videos, which is like kind of interesting actually, that like there are these like weird like Muzaks that people use. But those ones, I think they were still a little bit too melodic. That there's too much variation. And what I liked about the music that you chose is that like there was rhythm and you could match the rhythm to your words, but there wasn't that much variation to distract you. So yeah, great choice. I mean, the other thing is the aspect ratio. I think generally speaking, it's much better to have things horizontally set up, but I recognize that, you're working with limitations, and one of the things that's impressed me the most is what you folks have been able to make given the limitations that you have. So. Okay, great. Well, I guess in the last 10 minutes, we can just sort of close up or conclude. This is the last time that we're gonna. I mean, we have 2 more classes, right? But this is the last time that we have just sort of like open space to chat. So I do wanna appreciate it while we have it or so. Yeah. So like I said in the beginning of the class, there's one more video for you folks to make about Terrence Deacon's work. Have any of you had a chance to look at his paper? No? Do read it. It's like Terry, he's a theorist, and his talk is going to be pretty high level. So it would definitely behoove you to try to come prepared. I mean, sometimes it's just going to be over your head, and that's fine. But like he's going to be talking, like I said, I got, my power went out. Did you guys get that my power went out on Monday? Like I was in the middle of a sentence and then just like, yeah, I guess it was good timing. But yeah, his talk is going to really integrate Mods' talk and Joan's talk, like quite point for point, because he's going to be talking about the relaxation of selection stuff that Mods was talking about, and also the organismality stuff that Joan was talking about. So you folks will at least have some background for it. Yeah, so there's a video about his talk, and then we have one more talk by Will Ratcliffe, and then the class is done. You'll have one more assignment that's due, let's say, on the 10th, so that's 3 days after Will is done. Will's talk is on the 7th, yeah, so Thursday the 10th is when your final assignment is due. And for that one, I still want it to be somewhat open-ended, but you could go back and look through your old videos, maybe splice them together, make a clip show if you want. That could be fun. But just provide some reflection about the class. Harsh criticism of me is encouraged. I want to improve this for the next time I teach it. So having in video form your folks' thoughts about the class will be very valuable for the future. So that's what the final is. Yeah. So does anybody does anyone have any concluding thoughts they want to share, or something of that sort about how the class is going, or went, I suppose?
I guess I'll conclude because I was like first one to talk. I think it was because I started off originally being a little bit maybe not hesitant, but like unsure if I should continue in the direction because it's almost over. But like seeing that everybody has their own style, as what I've kind of come to see is that everybody has their own style of making videos, and maybe I should just continue with my style. Maybe I just found my style and I need to just kind of expand on it rather than change it up completely and try something that someone else does. But I definitely think that the criticism was like incredibly helpful because having it from people with different perspectives and different styles like allows me to make something that would be more attractive to a wider audience, which is like invaluable. So yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I've really appreciated seeing all your different styles. Like it's been quite a joy.
I enjoyed this class. It was a learning experience for me. At first, it was a rocky road because I didn't have any video editing experience whatsoever. But now, like I honestly, I thank you because these are transferable skills. I actually understand what my friend is saying when she's speaking to me about her YouTube videos because she has a YouTube channel now. So I feel useful now because I tell her like what I do with my videos and how much I've improved. So yeah, thank you. This class has taught me a lot with video editing.
That's great to hear. And my hope is, like it's a rare person that wants to make biology videos, right? Like, I mean, I want to make biology videos, but I think it's much more general that folks want to make videos about things. I mean, this is the world that we live in, and it's proven to be, a really effective medium for communicating. And so that's that, I think about all the classes that I took and, things that I learned that this sort of like classic angsty high schooler question, like, why am I learning calculus? Like, what's the point, right? So my hope is that you did learn some evolutionary theory, but more than that is that you learned a set of skills that you might want to use for things that you really do care about later on. Okay. Well, I guess then we can conclude, and I look forward to seeing your videos about Monza's talk. I'm almost done with mine, and I will see you tomorrow to talk with Terrence Deacon.